Jack Canfield's Breakthroughs to Success home study course now continues. Enjoy.
So this is going to be a 2 to 3 minute, no longer talk about an incident from your childhood where you learned something valuable. An incident, like I said yesterday, happens in time. You were standing in a particular place or sitting. You were hearing particular conversations or saying a particular thing. It's not a generalization talking about an event. It's the incident itself that we want to start with. So with your partner, I want to make sure that you have an incident. So you're going to tell them what you're going to be talking about. So if a person says, oh, I'm going to talk about how great summers are in Aspen, and they're so beautiful and it's wonderful, then that person would say to me, no, that's not an incident. And then I might say, oh, I'm going to talk about the specific time when I was by the pool and my friend Sue came and we had a hot dog sandwich together. That would have happened. So make sure they have an incident. Make sure that you each know exactly where you're going to start and where you're going to end. So I don't want any preambles. And what a preamble is, it's like the setup to something. I want you to start right at the beginning of the incident. So rather than saying, the reason I chose this particular incident is, I was thinking about it for a while, but then I heard someone else talk about theirs, and then I thought, oh, a better time would have been. Whatever that explanation is that starts it and explains it to everybody, we don't need that. I want you to be able to start right at the beginning. I was sitting by the pool with Sue. She had her blue glasses on. She looked over at me. That's right at the beginning of the incident. And then I want you to know the exact ending. A lot of times, first of all, I've noticed, especially in your sharing, you're not really having a purpose. So there is no ending. It's like, okay, I'm done now. In this particular talk, I want you to say something like, and what I learned was, or the value that I got was, or the insight that I had was, and then have what I call a sentence-long book. It's not like you'll figure it out when you're standing up in front of people talking. You've already got it figured out before you make the talk. You know exactly what you're going to say to end that sentence. And what I learned was I could do anything I wanted if I just started it. See, it's like a sentence-long book. So you're going to know the beginning, know the ending, have a specific incident, and then I want you to share a little bit from your heart, kind of sharing the talk with the person, just so you can get in the experience of it emotionally, as if you were there already. Wow, it happened like this. I was sitting there and I felt chills, and I was a little cold day, and I heard the rustle of the leaves, and I remember I had a smile on my face. It was really sunny out, so that you kind of get into the experience. I'm going to choose a few people, and we're going to get them up in front of the room one by one. I'm going to be sitting down here in the middle of the aisle, and I'm going to be listening to them speak just as you are. I need someone to help me time. Maybe Jan, would you like to do that with me? If you can all close your eyes just for a minute, and I'm going to show you how long 30 seconds is, because we're going to give you a 30-second warning and then an ending warning. So when there's 30 seconds left of the time for you to speak up here, and we'll do this in the small groups too, you'll hear some kind of a song or a bell or a yell or a yipe, something. And then you'll hear it at the end of the time too. And then you'll know for sure that's when you should be off stage, okay? 30 seconds is a long time though, so I want you to feel it in your body, not just think about it in your head. So close your eyes. 30 seconds is from right now to now. So you can open up your eyes. Now you know why San Francisco is a little out of shape with a 45-second earthquake, right? It's a long time, isn't it? So you have plenty of time to go towards the end of your talk, but do start going towards the end of your talk. And we'll give you another signal called pull you off the stage if you stay up here too much longer. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to applaud as people come up. I'm going to let them come up and kind of get centered up here and relax for a minute and kind of look around and see who's out here. And then I'm going to let them roll until the end of their talk. So the idea is not that the most perfect speakers come up or that it's the best talk of the day or anything like that. It's that it's whatever it is. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some feedback from some of the people in the audience. So be prepared to give some feedback on either what you saw that worked, which will be the first thing that I will ask, and then what you saw that could be corrected from your experience, from where you're sitting, from what touched you. And when you do give the feedback, if you would talk specifically to the person. So instead of saying she did this or he didn't do that, if you look right in their eyes and say you, etc. And then after that, I'll probably give them a little feedback. I might be coaching them a little bit up in front of the room. I might use something that they did or didn't do to give you an example so that you can be more effective when you're in your groups. We're all going to do these childhood talks. We'll all have a group to do them too, probably around 8 to 15 people, depending how we set up the groups. You'll all have the chance to have the same experience of being in front of a room. Some of you will be up here for demonstration. The people that are up here for demonstration, it's not so that they get better coaching than you. The people that are up here is to give you some knowledge while you're sitting in your chair. The real benefit is going to come while you're sitting in your chair. I will do the best that I can as I'm coaching people to allow you to see some things or consider some things that perhaps you hadn't seen before or considered before, so that your awareness of what it's like to be up on a stage or be effective when you're talking to people grows. So please keep yourself awake there. Have fun there. Know that the real purpose of your being in the course is not to be up on stage. The real purpose is for you to be in the audience. That's where the learning gets done. Does that make sense? Okay, I have a couple people I would like to start with. And what I'd like you to do, if possible, is if you could, maybe some of the assistants can get some chairs in the back of the room and we can just have them ready to go. I'm going to give the first person my mic. I'm going to take a handheld mic. I want you to just clip it on something. You don't need to do the fancy stuff where we put it up through your blouse and around. Just clip it on something or in your pocket and put it near enough so we can hear you, so that people can get a sense of, sometimes people up here speak lower than we need. Also, this will be on the tape, so we want it to come through on the tape also. Let me just see, where's Jetta? Jetta, sweetheart, you want to go back and just sit in one of those chairs? Where's Reggie? Didn't know I was going to call on you, did you? Go on back and sit in one of those chairs. Where is Leah? You want to sit in the back of the chair? 3. I'm not promising we'll get through all of these people. And where's Catherine? You want to go back and sit in the back? And Richard. Okay, we'll start with these people. And let's start with Jetta first, since you were so courageous to stand up in front of the room and request. So,
okay. I was lying on my bed. I was lying on my left side, which looks like your right side, but it really was my left side. And looking back now, I'm not quite sure how old I was. I think I must have been somewhere between the ages of 6 and 8. And my bed was against the back wall, and my sister's bed was along the side wall. And we always went to bed at the same time. And for some reason, I don't know why, on this particular night, but she wasn't in the room. And I don't know why I had this space to myself, but I did. And one of the most profound experiences of my life happened in this quiet space. As I was lying there on my side, I had the thought come over me, which is not a thought that comes over me very often in life, was that I could move the wardrobe without getting up off the bed. So without thinking about it, it's not like you decide to have a thought and then you analyze the thought and then you go ahead with it. I remember I was 6 to 8 years old. I was very, very spontaneous. And I was lying there looking at the wardrobe, and the thought just arose, and instantly I said, I'm going to move the wardrobe here. And the wardrobe shot right up to my face. And I'm shaking a bit now as I'm saying that, not so much because I'm on stage, because the experience was alarming. And what I have to tell you guys now is this is the first time in 38 years that I've ever told anybody about this experience. And I thought, I can send it back again, and I shot it back to the back wall. And then I thought, I'm going to bring it just halfway. And I spent the next few minutes just experimenting with what I could do with my thoughts. I won't go into what happened after that, but as you can imagine, I had some interesting nights to myself after that experience. But what it taught me was very valuable, and I remember it to this day, and it's helped me through my whole life. And that there are no limitations on the mind. There are no limitations on what we can do. And I think for me the most important thing is that we don't have to think about it. We don't have to think about what we're doing. We can just do it. We don't need to know how it happens. It just happens. And that for me was the most amazing experience of my life. And yet it has left this huge indelible print on the rest of my life. And I'm very grateful to that experience. I'm very grateful to share it with you in a safe environment. I know there are some psychoanalysts in the room, and I'm sure you'll be rushing up to me afterwards, but thank you.
Okay, sweetheart, I want you to just take a half a step forward. That's great. And just look around the audience and just allow your body to relax and take a deep breath. Make some eye contact all the way back to the back on both sides. And as we give you feedback, I want you to keep this particular movement of your body just nice and centered. Mm-hmm. Just relax your arms a little bit. Yeah. And make some eye contact over here. Okay, so first of all, a few people that would be willing to share what your experience was of what really worked for you with Jetta, what was touching to you, or what influenced you, or what did you think she did well? Something that worked. Who would like to share? Speak to Jetta.
I think you did an excellent job of setting up the room because you gave us a good mind picture, and then when you did, I already had the picture in my mind so that when you said that the wardrobe came towards you, I was able to see it happen. I didn't have to stop and take a break and say, okay, well, what is she talking about? So you did a really good job of that.
Thank you.
And who would go next?
Hi, Jenna. I'm Annie, and I just wanted to share with you the fact that you were mobile. You weren't just like a little tin soldier standing up there, and the gesticulation was very dynamic, and that really did speak quite a bit to me. Keep doing that.
Thank you.
Okay, now don't move.
Oh.
Don't move.
Okay.
Notice what she's done with her arms? This is a natural thing that her body just did because our bodies aren't trained to have a body to be in front of people. Normally what we do is when we get in front of people is we cower back, we close down. And so what she's communicating with now is a part of her body that lets you know she's safer like this. We call this in my industry body vias, things that you communicate through via your body. So I'm just going to stand up here. You just stay right there. We call this the fig leaf. This is a fig leaf pose. This is the flashing fig leaf. Now, if you watch her, because she's uncomfortable right now because we're giving her feedback, but also if you start to watch bodies while they're presenting, you'll see she had this nice fluid way with her body, which was really nice. There's a couple things that she held on to, but mostly she was sharing so much from her heart. If you come from your experience first, your body will follow. That's why it's always important when you're speaking in front of a group to do what she did. She did it naturally. She settled herself, she looked out, she got herself present. And so her body was open. It wasn't that she needs to stay in this kind of position like this the whole time, but starting there, then when she starts sharing her story and she gets in touch with it from her heart, her body's going to follow and do exactly the right thing that it should do. And that kind of movement isn't distancing herself. That kind of movement is bringing herself closer to you. What she just did up here while she's listening to the acknowledgement, because that's very uncomfortable for people, is now she's distancing herself from you, see? So I'm just going to ask you to keep reminding you to open up and share from that open place. Okay, what else worked? Uma?
Jetta, I really liked the vision that I had when that wardrobe came right up, and your movement with your hand and the way that you portrayed that. I also felt really special when you said that this is the first time that you've ever shared that. And that made me go, wow, I feel really special with this whole thing. So I thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Very nice. And one more thing, something that worked.
Hi, I'm Natasha from Baltimore. What worked for me was that you said more than once that you were between 6 and 8 years old, and even though you never mentioned the bed again that was against the wall, I could see the whole room. And then as you were talking and moving and like showing how you were laying down in the bed, it was like I was you at that moment. I was laying in the bed. I was making that wardrobe come to me and go away. And it's like I can see the window, and it's like I can see outside, and it's like a clear night. I see the stars. And it's like you gave all that to me by just saying believe me, I was like between 6 and 8 years old, and I was laying there, and it was like this, and then it went back, and I mean, I felt that whole experience, and thank you for that.
Oh, very nice. Nice, yeah. What's something that could be corrected? Dales, I'm going to let the assistants do this now. Here. Thanks.
It was a magnificent story. It was a big story, but you didn't get as big as the story.
Mm-hmm. No,
Physically, you kind of held yourself in. It was a really, really, really spectacular story. And you didn't quite get spectacular with it.
Very good. Let's give feedback. I'm going to take some of the feedback, and if I can add something to it to increase your awareness, I'm going to do that at the time so you have it at that moment. So one of the things I always suggest to people, when you're up on stage, there's a space inside of you, and then there's the exterior space. So the room has its exterior space, but I could imagine you were all inside of me. That's how much space that I have inside of me. You have as much space as space inside of you, actually. So what I always do is I always look at the furthest person to the right up here in front, the furthest person out to the right in the back, and also to the left on both sides. And I really get a sense of how big the room is, and then I kind of imagine that the whole room is inside of me. That way, when I'm looking at someone, whether I'm looking at the person in the back or the person here or over here or here, at the same time, it's almost like I'm holding the rest of the room. And then if I have my consciousness that way, I can tell if there's someone over here that has a problem that's confused, because you'll feel the energy. And what you tended to do, Jetta, was your space goes out to about here. This is the whole group that you've been talking to.
Yeah.
Did you feel the rest of you were kind of out there, kind of observing, right? But not connected.
Yeah.
You need to be big enough, and you are big enough, and you have a big enough story.
Even at 5'2".
Yeah, to include all of these people back all the way here. Do you see the difference? Cool. Okay, something else that could be corrected. Right here, Thomas.
Hi, Jenna. I would have liked to have heard the end kind of tighten up, end a little sooner. It felt like a bus that was just getting ready to stop for me to get on, and then it moved a little more and a little more.
Okay, two things. I'm going to respond to what Thomas said. But don't go back. This is like, I've had people walk off the back of the stage when they're talking. Did anybody notice what she did with her body when she was receiving the correction? She backed up, yes, there was something else.
Clenched her fist?
Yeah, a little bit clenching. Let those fingers go. Anything else? I'm sorry. She got it with her chin. This is how she was.
It's so weird. You don't see any of this stuff happening. It's really funny.
You don't, do you? Because
No.
we're looking at you, actually. This is how she received it. Now, a lot of you, that's how you'll speak, because it's a lot safer to handle the audience on your chin than it is straight on. And just notice the difference in the energy that I have here with you. Here I am, and I'm totally open, and I'm with you. And in order to be here, I have to be willing for you to see me, and I have to be open. See the difference in the energy? I'll be right over there to show you all. Watch this one. You won't know, now, remember when I said you're going to go out of here seeing and hearing differently? You'd be surprised how many people speak from their forehead, speak from their chins, or the side of their face. Even though they're making eye contact, there's a part of them that goes away. And you can feel it in the energy of it if you're open and aware to the energy. So here I am. How you doing out there? Cool. Okay, bye. Do you see that feeling? Feel that feeling? Yeah. I can be coy, I'm good at that, but what I want you to notice is there's parts of your body that you can deflect the connection. You can actually stop the connection of you being with the audience, and that's what we want to have open. Because if we can have you be open and available and be willing to be seen and be willing to see others, and then teach you to share from your heart, then we've got something really going. Something else that could be corrected that you noticed up here in front?
Hi, Jetta. I'm Kyla from Canada, and from Toastmasters, I've learned to be careful not to string sentences together with and.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you're thinking, not to put in between when you're thinking.
To make a conscious effort not to put in or...
Yes, we have an and ah counter at Toastmasters who reminds us of that, and then you win a little trophy at the end. It's the one trophy you don't want to win. But I think I only counted one.
Good. It's a good point. I want to also address the ending. What did you all notice about the ending? Remember what I told you? Know your beginning and know your ending, but really know your ending, know what that sentence-long book is going to be. Because when you get up here, what we tend to do is look to the audience for approval. So she had a fabulous ending. She kept talking, though, and so you were pretty clear she wasn't at the end. You knew that she was trying to find it. If she had just said, it was the most incredible experience of my life, period, done, that's it, you would have clapped, yes? If you wouldn't have clapped, and that was her ending, then what I teach people is you just stand there till the audience figures it out. And they will. Don't do this. That's it. Or as Jetta did, thank you. That's my clue to you that I got over. No, I already gave you the ending. I don't have to give you any more clues. Now you just got to get aware enough as an audience to figure out I'm completed, and you'll eventually get there. What you did is you got to the end, and then you created it again, then you said it again, and you said it again, and you created it again, and finally you didn't know what else to say, so you said thank you, just to tell them it's finally over, okay? And the thing that will allow you not to have to do that, because when you're up on stage it gets scary, and sometimes you do forget what you're saying, what your point is. You better have at least the beginning and the ending in your mind. The middle fills in itself, especially if you're sharing about something you know a lot about, or if you're sharing about your life, which is what Jetta's doing. She doesn't have to memorize her life, she lived it. Do you see? It's already hers. Something else that could be corrected? Yeah, back there. It's great, Jim.
Hi, Jen. I'm Karen.
Hi, Karen.
I really appreciated when you started in the beginning going, I'm, lying on my left side. But then several times later, you just kept doing this with your head, and I found that distracting.
Okay. And that's a little bit of that body via that I'm talking about. You got a little, there's a bit of your energy. It's kind of like that, isn't it? Yeah. That one? Yeah. I mean, she's probably won a lot of things in her life playing that. Some of us have acts that really work. This one works. Okay, I'm going to go through some things here. Great settling in the beginning. Oh my gosh. Most people get up and they start talking before they even look to see if there is an audience. So you really took a breath, you looked around. The only thing, again, I would correct is you need to expand your consciousness to go to the back of the room. Started right at the beginning of the incident. Did you see how powerful that was? She didn't give you any explanation. She didn't tell you about, her past background and how she got to the bedroom and why she was there and how come she was alone. She just said, I found myself alone in this space. I was this year's, I was laying like this, started right at the beginning. What that does is it puts the audience in present time. Because, see, human beings are really interesting. You all know how to go away, but act like you're here. Okay? And it looks like this. You're here like this. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You got the nod right? You got the grunt right? See, you can pretend you're actually here and you're somewhere else totally together. So what happens is when she starts to explain, if she does a preamble, there's something in your consciousness that says, we're not to the meat yet. There's no point in being present. It's a pain in the ass to be present anyway. It actually takes energy and self-determination. It's much easier to daydream. And so a piece of you will just go away until you hear the speaker at the point that they need to be, and then you'll come back, hopefully. If you get the audience right at the beginning in the present, then you can keep them there. That's a much easier job than having them be gone and trying to get them back. Do you see the difference? You're fun, and you play with the audience. That's really nice. And we're going to do a little bit with that. You have a thing with your hip. You don't have to stand in that one place, and I want all the speakers to know that. You can walk. Movement, however, has some conditions to it. What makes movement powerful is control. If I'm constantly pacing while I'm talking, and a very interesting story, by the way, it doesn't matter. After a while, don't you hate me? Likewise, if you're constantly still and you never move. And the reason is it has no control. And what gives it a control is if it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And constant doesn't have any of those things. So what I generally do with movement is I'll start in the center of the stage. And I'll make some eye contact and get my communication going. And then as I move, I will move to a place where I stop and stay stopped for a while. And I can move forward, I can move backwards. Doesn't matter what I do with my movement, as long as at some point it ends. And then it's a general guideline, 50% movement, 50% still. Same with gestures. If you're, any Italians in here? This is an Italian speaking. There's so much arm movement usually in some of our passionate kinds of heritages. But if you do the same rule, 50% movement, 50% still. So if you're in front of a boardroom and you're speaking, You might rest your hands on the table and then make some gestures. You might rest your hand on the flip chart or point to the board and rest your hand there. Or cup your hands, make them still for a period of time, and then the rest of the time moving. And then usually what happens with gestures is, if it's the kind of audience that can handle a big thing, like there's a difference between marketing executives and bankers usually. If I go into a bank, I usually will wear a three-piece suit. If I go into an ad agency, you know, it's more fun to wear a sundress and have some bright colors. Likewise with movements. The ad guys and gals love this kind of stuff. The bankers like me to be conservative. So it's little movements. Swimming, swimming. Great conversation. So nice conversational mode. You didn't all of a sudden become a speaker. Have you noticed those people? They're an ordinary person in the audience and they get up on stage and suddenly they're this way. It's really okay to speak conversationally to a group. Mostly if you're in a big audience, you have a microphone anyway. So it's not about volume. Oh, something, she said something. It was, I won't go into what happened after that. Tell me what you thought or felt. I wanted to hear about it. And not only just excluded, you were thinking about it, right? What happened? When did it happen? What was it about? Why is she not telling me? That immediately puts you out of present time. And how I explain that is, think of that this whole arena is like a big bucket, and you can put communication into it, and you can take communication out. You can put something into the space, you can take something out of the space. She put something into your space, and she didn't answer the question. And that makes you unconscious, crazy, wonder about it, etc. So if you do something like that, you've got to be connected enough to the audience that you see the perplexity on your faces. And when you see something like that, you've got to stop and say, well, let me tell you a little bit about what happened. Blip, 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 blip. Okay, now, do you see? Then I can go forward because I took that out of the space. And when there's nothing in the space between you and I, we're connected. One other thing, you said you decide to have a thought. Do you remember when she said that? You decide to have a thought about how far away you can push it and how far back it can come. Anytime I speak for you, what will happen is that person I'm speaking for, when I say you, blah, 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 instead of I. So you get really frustrated when somebody doesn't answer your question. You have a thought, and then you decide you have to handle it. More of us speak in the terms of you than you would believe. If I say, I get really frustrated when I don't get the answer, I think, wow, what would happen if I asked it to go forward and backward? Then all I'm doing is sharing my experience. If I'm talking in you, what I'm actually doing is telling you what's so for you, and there will be an automatic, unconscious resistance from you that, again, puts a stop in our connection. Does that make sense? Okay, I want to do just have a little bit of fun with Jetta here and get her to coach. So think of anything that happened to you when you were small that you could share with us. Another example, another incident, another time, and tell me when you've got it.
Okay.
Okay, and what I'm going to do, Jetta, is I'm just going to coach you out of this and
Okay.
All right, so every time you say and I'm going to say it too.
Oh boy.
Okay, and that's going to bring some awareness to you because you're not aware of it. Do you see what she just did with her body? Oh. She was like, whoa. Now, it's okay to move, but I just want people to see how when my communication is threatening to her a little bit, what her body automatically responds and reacts to. She didn't think about that move. She just went, whoa, right? Okay, so turn around so you can kind of be in a new unit of time.
Okay.
Look out and see the whole room this time, all the way to the back. And whatever you do is going to be perfect. The only thing we're going to be working on is this little and us. So everything else it's a great thing. And start sharing.
I got roller skates when I was about 10 years old.
10 years old.
I got roller skates when I was 10 years old, and my sister got them too.
And
I stole my sister's pair and lent them to my friend, and we
and
did I say it again? Jesus. Shall I start from the beginning?
no, you're doing fine. Just start from right there. Then what happened?
I gave them to my friend, but it's a valid conjunction in
Yes,
this sentence.
It's a valid conjunction. Okay, here's the point. When you're up in front of the room, it's an exchange. You're not in conversation with yourself, and you're not the only one speaking. Even though the audience doesn't say anything, and you're the only one that's actually verbally talking, it really still is a conversation. So as I say things to you, what happens over there is you process them. And you might process them like this. Well, I agree with that. Well, I don't agree with that. Well, wow, isn't that neat? Oh, same thing happened to me. While that process is going on, I need to give you some space to have that exchange with me. And if I fill up all the empty places with words, you don't have that space. So yes, there are times when you want to say and. And it's even okay if you say sometimes. The point is there needs to be some breathing room in there for the audience, which is pure silence. So it can't be one long sentence, and. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we'll do just a little bit, and then we'll be done with you. You're doing a great job. So keep talking.
We decided to start our practice run on a hill for some unknown reason.
Space, pause, look out at the audience, see their response. They're talking back to you. Then go.
So then we strapped them on, and we got them all buckled up, and we start.
It's okay. That's fine. You're doing fine.
We got them all buckled up. We started on the roll down, and when you're 10, you don't work out.
When you're 10? Who's 10?
When we're 10?
Well,
when I was 10.
At that time, I thought.
At that time, I wasn't working out the particular gradient of the hill too well.
Perfect, stop right there. Now you see she's in an exchange with you. Yes. That was fabulous, yes? Yes. Okay, Jenna, that's great. You're done, baby. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Reggie, the non-volunteer of the group. Get your microphone back there. So any comments, anything you'd like to share, any insights you had, any questions? Over here, we need a mic. Thanks, Bill. Stand up, please, so we can see you.
I'm John from Phoenix. After the third valid conjunction was taken out, you became very fluid.
Yes.
And you began to walk the stage, and that's when you began to have the conversation with us.
Did everybody notice that?
Yes. You were very expressive with your hands and your eyes and your head. Just, it all worked.
Excellent. Thank you for noticing that. Wonderful. Larry?
Where did Jetta go?
She's right in the, where is she? She's over here now. Jetta.
Jetta, when your smile lights up your entire face and makes an immediate connection with us, so I would encourage you to make sure that you use that often, because that was the thing that just brought you alive. It's a beautiful smile. Use it often.
Excellent. Very nice. One more question, comment? Nima?
Absolutely, Jetta. That last moment when you smiled and nodded at the audience, almost kind of like, you know what I mean? That was perfect. I mean, you just absolutely, that captured so much of who you are and gave it right to us. Thank you for that.
Yeah, excellent. Nice job.
To resume listening to this course on audio CD, please go to CD number 34.
And a great big hand for our next great speaker, Reggie.
When I was about 6 years old, I was playing with my sister. And you know, sometimes when you play with your sister, and she was about 5 or 6 years older than me, and we had a great time playing. But I got a little happy, so to speak. So I said an expletive that I probably won't repeat here, but the initials are MF. Now, I'm about 6 years old. So what happened was she was like, oh, I'm going to tell. And, you know how big sisters go. So she took this information, and what she did was blackmail me with it. So I had to do a lot of her chores. I had to wash her dishes. I had to take out some trash. And so I'm just thinking, well, Diane, please just don't tell. Don't tell Mama, please. Just don't, whatever you do, don't tell her. So lo and behold, I guess I was her indentured servant for long enough, and she just decided to go ahead and tell my mother. This was a Saturday afternoon. So Saturday, she comes up, my mother says, Reg, come here. And so she has one of my favorite toys. So the lure was she had my Hot Wheel track with her. So she had, you know, those Hot Wheel tracks. I don't know if you all probably had those before, the toys. And it was a race car track. So with that, I was like, okay, yeah, Mama, what's going on? And she said, what did you say the other day? Oh, then that was just the fight or flight response. And I flew. And so when I rushed out the door, I could see it as if it was yesterday. I hit the front door, bam. I go down the steps, and I'm running. And here is my mother behind me and my sister behind my mother running. So I hit and I took the right corner right there on the front lawn, and right when St. Louis, I was growing up in St. Louis, so it's, the space between the two homes are called the gangway. So I hit the gangway, but right before I hit the gangway was my next door neighbor, who was a special needs kid. He was about 4 or 5 years older than me, and he said, Miss Smith, do you want me to help him catch it? And I was like, oh my God, don't, because this guy was right in the line of fire and he could trip me up. So she would say, no, I got it. So she went running. And so I'm hitting down the gangway. Here's my mom behind me. And so we have this fence, it's about this tall. And I hit, or a gate, I should say. So I'm hitting, I'm thinking, hoping this thing, please, hope this thing is like open. Because I didn't want to hit it and crash. So I went and it was open. I popped it open. Here goes my mom right behind me. She could run. And so, what happened was that when I went up the stairs, they caught me. Because my mother called me, she reached out and grabbed me by the back of my shirt. And she had my Hot Wheel track. And again, that's causing a lot of trauma here. You're on beat with your own toy. But when she hit me, she busted me a couple of times. But then at the time, I remember O.J. Simpson was a pretty big football player, pretty popular football when he was popular back then. And I remember, using my O.J. skills to kind of shake loose from my mom. So I shook her, and then went running again. And my sister was right behind her. But lo and behold, by the time I got to the bathroom, it was over. I mean, to the living room, it was over. She called me and beat the heck out of me with my Hot Wheel track. So from that, I learned that the valuable experience for me was that, A, if you do something like that, own up to it early. Don't trust your sister because she'll sell you out.
Nice job, Reggie. Okay, get yourself nice and balanced, like there's a string from the top of your head actually holding you up, and your body just kind of floats down from there. And now look out into the audience and make some real kind of a little longer eye contact with some people out here, all the way in the back row, some in the middle, and on both sides. And as you do that, just take a couple deep breaths and settle yourself into your body. Yeah, coming in for a landing. Okay, then. Okay, first of all, someone that would like to share what worked. Right over here. Thanks, Bill.
One of the things that was outstanding was your asides. Like, for instance, you brought us into the moment, even though you didn't declare it initially, but through the course of exchanging information with us, you brought us in that little tidbit of information we needed to continue.
Excellent. Yes, well done. Right here?
First of all, I just
Right
want
here,
to say,
sweetheart.
Reggie, that on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give you a 12. And I'd also like to say you started and you set the situation up, and you're moving at an average tempo. And then when you start to run, you sped it up, and you just started to follow you with that speed. And I just felt like I was there running with you. It was wonderful.
That's great. Fantastic. Yes, Marcella?
Reggie, I'm a former talent agent, and just a little more practice, and you're ready for the Las Vegas stage.
Right behind you, Terry.
I just wanted to say, your sense of humor is priceless. Your timing is great. Your sound effects, boom, bam, wow. I mean, it's just really like, you're just right there, and your descriptions and everything, you're really great. Thank you.
Excellent. Terry?
Hey, Reggie, I think Jack better watch out. You might have some competition here, that's for sure. Reggie, I know, being a big guy myself, like yourself, when you're standing up on an elevated stage, it's a big presence. But you pulled it together because I don't think anybody in the audience felt intimidated by your size. You got right down on our level, and there was a great connection with the audience. It was a real heartfelt thing. That's pretty cool.
Thank you. Very nice. Up here. Jim?
Reggie, you have a voice that just resonates. It's so deep. It just captivates you. I try to get out there, hello, 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 and you just barely open your mouth, and somewhere in those lungs and your tongue, it's got color and depth. Lucky you.
Here, and then over there, and then we'll look at something that could be corrected.
Reggie, I mean, you were so great. The quality that's really outstanding for me is the liveliness and how you make things alive. And one way you create that is through the use of your voice, how it follows your action and how you speed up, you slow down, you change voice, you took the voice of the kid and, rather like the mother. And sometimes you would do like pauses, just like something like you are saying on the side. And that's really, that's great. Thank you.
That's so true. And over here.
You did a great job of just moving right to the front of the stage and then owning the whole stage presence. And I felt connected when you came to my side. I saw the same connection as you moved to the other side.
Excellent. Very nice. So some good things, yeah? What could be corrected? I know. Oh, that's good. So meet her at the break. Something that can be corrected. Green. Oh, blue, sorry.
Hey, Reggie, this is Sean from California. Your story was awesome. The only thing is you cracked us up, but then talked before we were finished laughing, and I felt like I had to suppress my laugh because I didn't want to miss any part of your story. So just let yourself be funny, and it was awesome.
Thank you.
Great point. So what's that addressing that I've talked about already? It's that exchange. It's a conversation with the audience. If you don't have your total focus on the audience, see, a lot of times what happens when we're speaking is we have our focus on what it is we need to say. And we're so intent about ourselves and getting that across. If you look out in the audience, one of the tricks I did when I was just beginning to speak is I used to, you know how they say pretend that somebody's naked? Well, that's okay, I guess. I mean, it's interesting. But the reason that they say that is so that you will put your attention on the audience. So what I used to pretend is I was in the audience and they were on stage. And so it would like focus my attention over there. What are they going to say next? What are they going to do next? What's the animation that's going to come forth from this person? Because all you are is one person at a time in a group, right? So remember that, and then you can see, are they done laughing yet? I mean, savor it. Boy, that's a time. That's how people have timing. They're watching the audience. Your humor is fabulous, though. Something else that could be corrected? Yeah, right here, John.
Hi, I'm John from California. That was really great. The only thing that I would suggest is maybe a little less movement when you're not explaining the scenario or the movements. It seemed like you were just had a little too much. It was kind of tough to watch you and every little thing that's happening. So I think in a couple points you could have just maybe stand a little still and explain a few points and then get back into your movement when it actually happened. It just seemed like you were kind of a little too much, that's all. But very great, awesome.
Good point. And you tend, Reggie, to pace a little. So your movement seems to be side to side, even though you have control in it because you did stop. It's not like you were continually pacing. So we'll do in a little bit some exercises for you to get more of a sense of the space of the stage you can use. Because there's more movements than just one side to the other. Over here in front.
I'm Judy. I also loved it. Loved you, Reggie. Another aspect of the giving space, I think there were maybe 3, 4, at the most 5 periods in all of what you said. And, but, so, connecting sentences, just long strings.
Okay. That could have affected you and not. It didn't affect me, so sometimes it will pull your attention away and sometimes it won't. I have a feeling that if he had slowed down at a certain part, that even if he put all those ands, so's, and buts in, you wouldn't have noticed it, because it was the pace. He got a little faster than your ability to keep up with him. So we'll talk about that too. Okay, one more. Yeah, up here, Peggy.
As you talked, you really engaged with us, and we got caught up in your story. But in the very beginning, and because you were nervous, I didn't have that connection. I want to have that connection, and as soon as you open your mouth, and that's the places that I heard the and the connecting part is in the very beginning. Once you were with us, it went away.
Let me just give him a little bit of correction and coaching, and then we'll bring everybody into this so that you can learn some. Did you notice when he said, when you play with your sister?
Yes.
Bet you wouldn't have noticed that before I talked, would you? But now that you notice it, do you see how awkward it sounds and how not intimate? When I was playing with my sister, I felt totally different sense of you and him, right? So just watch that. There's a couple of times where you talk about your experience, but you say it by telling them it's theirs. Like, when you play with your sister, what you think is, okay? No, we're not playing with our sister out here, and you're talking about your sister, so when I, okay? That's a good one also, as long as we're in the group together, because some of the people in here are doing that and they're sharing, and I notice also on one-on-one conversations, and if you just point to your chest, like, and give some people some coaching, that's an incredible communication expansion for people. Eye contact. We're going to work on this. Now, because he's up in front of such a large group, sometimes it feels like you can't make eye contact because there's so many of you. And I'm assuming that's what happened here. I think Reggie is the kind of person that generally connects and looks in people's eyes when he talks. So I'm going to show you a trick, and this is why I had you do those 5 seconds. There's 2 kinds of language. One's called representational language, and one is language that identifies the thing itself. So representational language, first of all, language that identifies the thing itself. This is a body. This is a person. There's a word, and it is there. This is a stage. There's a word, and it is here. This is a book. There's a word, and it is here. Now, if I say the word group, where is the group? No, all I see is a bunch of people together. What's really here is a bunch of bodies and individuals and people. There's no such animal, group. It's not hanging out. It's not moving its nose. Group is a word that represents something that does not exist. It represents several people together, and then we call that a group. But when you get the several people together, there's no such animal group. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, it's very important. I know it's a little somatic there. Yes. So I can say the word person, and I can go out and find a person. This person lives, breathes, smells, eats, drinks, etc., goes to the bathroom. Probably shouldn't give you all that information. You see, it's really a person, and there is a word for that thing that actually exists. I can tell this person, go back and stand in the corner and put a dunce hat on, and she can do that because she exists. Make sense? Group is a representational word. What it represents is if I have one person and another person and another person together, we call that a group. Now, does the thing group exist? No. All a group is several people together. The people exist, but the group doesn't. You see, the word group is a representational word. Okay, everybody get that now? So it's impossible to talk to a group because a group doesn't exist. And what people try to do when they're on stage, there's a lot of different tricks to do this. Okay, one of the tricks is, go real fast. If I can make eye contact fast with everybody almost at the same time, then I'm talking to everybody. Another one is we'll look kind of quite, not right at them, but kind of over their heads. It's out there, the group. The only thing that you can ever talk to is another human being. The only person you can ever make another connection with is another human being, and you can only do that one person at a time. So when I'm speaking to a group, it's really a consecutive series of one-on-one contacts. Now, if I have 3 or 4 people here, that's easy, because I can see them. And I can talk with this person and make eye contact and connection, and you know, that person feels good about it, and I do, and then I can move to this person and talk to them, and that person feels good about it, and they feel the connection, and I can move over here to another person. And if I have just a few people, I can move around like that one-on-one. However, in a big group like this, sometimes it's so big you can't see the eyes. And especially if you have cameras and lights flashing at you. So what we do is a trick. And I'm going to teach this to you, and you're going to practice it, okay? It's called clusters. So here's the stage. Now, if you've ever done any kind of theatrical work, or if you've watched people on newscasts, the news anchors, you know, don't they appear to be looking right at you? They're looking at a camera. You don't exist for them. It's a lens. But they're taught to focus past and through the lens as if there's a person on the other end. Because if they were actually looking right at the lens, you would have that effect. And people that aren't really good at communicating on camera look at the lens and you go, gee, I don't feel like I'm really with them. They're not a really good anchor. But people that look right through their lens and kind of connect with you out there, you say, gosh, I feel like they're just looking right at me. So that is a mocking up. We call that mocking up or role-playing or imagining. What you do is you mock up the experience of what your body would feel like, where your gaze would be, kind of what your animation in your face would be like, if you actually could see the person face to face. So for example, I can look over there and there's nobody over there, but if I mock it up, I can be talking to that real person. And I can see that real person. And I know exactly when I'm really connecting in on a real person and when I'm not. Did you see how that happened? Okay? So you got to get in that experience of as if you can eyeball that person way over there, as if you can really see their eyes. Now you can here, and you maybe couldn't in 2000. And I don't know if you're blind or not, so sometimes I am, so sometimes I'm mocking up, and sometimes I actually see your eyeballs. So you look out to a point in the crowd as if you're speaking to one person. You don't look out like you're like looking at the whole group. You look out like you're speaking to one person. You focus there, you have the experience as if you're seeing that one person and connecting. And what happens in a large group is the cluster around that point that you're looking at has the same experience that you're talking just to them. And then you move to another point. And then that cluster has that experience. And then you move to another point. And when you're in a small group, you actually find a person and you look at them and make eye contact, and you stay with them for a period of time, because that's how we do with people. We don't go one word to you, one word to you, one word to you. We talk in thoughts and conversations. So when I've made a connection with you, I've said something, and then I'll move over here and make a connection with that person and say something. Then I'll move over here and make a connection with that person. You see how that goes? So we're going to practice your eye contact. Because everything else you do is pretty phenomenal. Before we do that, come a little ways this way, because I don't want you to, yeah. Now just stay eye contact with me, Reggie, and step back and see what it feels like when you're backing up on that stage. Yeah, you can move backwards. Whoa, what a concept. Okay, and then kind of move forward. Yeah, now stop there. Now move a little diagonally forward, not straight across. Yeah, diagonal, a new move. Yay. Now move back a couple of feet. Right there. Aha! Now diagonal forward over this side. Yeah, you see there are other options and choices than just backwards and forwards. Got it. Okay, so that you just want to get in because you have the movement, stop, down. All right, now think of something that you want to share. Something from your childhood that'll be fun for us to hear. And now, before you talk.
Okay.
Okay. Tell me if you got it. You got it? You got something to share?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is the trick. You go inside to figure out what you're going to say. Some people look up, some people look down, some people look to the side. That's an internal process. Before you say it, you must find a person. You got to come out and connect first and then talk. What Reggie's doing is not only moving fast and looking above you, he's talking before he gets out of his internal state. So you gather the internal state, feel those emotions, because that's what makes your talk so rich. Come out, find someone. Look them in the eye and then speak. So every time you're going to talk, you're going to move from one person to another, and you're going to hang in there for a few seconds, just like we did that 5 seconds. Well, you're going to see someone first. Now, if you can't see all the way back here, what you're going to do is mock up and pretend you found one person. Okay, got it? All right, let's see what happens here.
You know, one of the things I learned as a person, as a child, from my grandmother was wisdom. My grandmother taught me that you can do anything that you want to do if you put your mind to it. She really did. And that was one thing I really got from her. One of the things that she told me was that, you know, and I'll put it in the way she said it. She said it as if she was speaking. Of course, she was only, she was 70-some years old, living in Mississippi.
Was this great? Awesome. You're awesome.
Yeah.
Give your microphone to the next person. Yeah, they're on the DVD.
Okay. Oh, well, she just said, you know what she told me? She said, and I'll put it in the way she said it. She said, you know, boy, you know, get your lesson. Go to school.
Make sure you're making eye contact with someone.
Where you're tied, don't work with your hands. Where you're tied to work. Just make sure you go to school and be a professor. And how I interpreted that is that You just had to be a professional. She knew what it was like growing up in Mississippi with no education, and she didn't want that for us. And I was an 11-year-old boy at the time, and that was the one thing that really stuck with me, and I was able to live out.
Reggie, can you give that microphone to Leah, please? Comments, questions, remarks? Has he done this before? Well, we're getting a microphone over here. There are some people where it doesn't matter what they do, the audience is going to forgive them. And this guy has one of those kinds of voices. However, what goes along with it is he really speaks from his heart. And you can tell he's authentic. No greater combination than a great voice and an authentic heart. Yeah. Yes, Martin?
I absolutely agree. It was miraculous. But what I found, maybe I think he was just a bit nervous, obviously. It's quite clear. And what I found what could be good for him, you know, where is he actually?
He's right back.
Oh, Reggie, okay. See, what I found what you did was sort of, you were like, always like this. And you didn't have the space just to be with the people, with like, let loose. And I think if you just like that little bit, you would go from 12 to 14.
In the back, any comments, questions?
Yeah, Reggie, I don't know what you do or whatever, but I think we just found a real natural talent. Your voice, your presence, I mean, like, you know, Marsha was saying, it didn't really matter that you said a couple times, or that maybe your hands were out in front, or anything like that, or, you know, maybe you moved a little too frenetically across, whatever. It was great stuff, and like Marsha said, it came from the heart. It was funny, but it had meaning, and it had a real message. And, I mean, your voice is amazing. I mean, it has such a presence, and, you know, you, big guy, you have a great presence, and you project it. And I don't know, it's just a natural talent. I don't know what you do. Maybe you do it all the time, but I think it's something to consider, and to really make an effort to work on. Yeah, there's little things here and there, work on it, but I mean, run with it, man. That's great stuff.
Yeah. Out in the audience, are you learning? Is this good for you to see it and model it a little bit? We're going to take a couple more and then we're going to practice this, everybody. Yes, comment or something?
If you could just go a little further about the exchange, and kind of dovetailing on what the gentleman over here asked about that, when we laughed at what he said and then he began talking, it was almost as if being interrupted. Was that a natural feeling for, okay. So our conversation, we were actually interrupting each other.
Yes.
Okay, so after we stopped laughing, I mean, I said, Oprah does this a lot. I've noticed where the audience laughs. She goes to say something again. Jack, you do this too. And then you giggle, and then the audience laughs again. That's still communication going back and forth, right?
And it's the conversation, it's the exchange. Because, see, it looks like the person, well, first of all, let's just thank for sharing and the question. That's nice. When you're up in front of the stage and it's your time to talk, a lot of talks don't have any interaction in them. The kind of work that Jack and I do, there's lots of interaction. But sometimes you'll be up on a stage where you will say everything and the audience will say nothing, verbally out loud. But don't think they're not saying a lot inside and having all sorts of things going on. You have to be watching them to see what's going on. So if they're perplexed, you can slow down. If they're confused, you can say, did everybody get that, or does someone have a question? If they're laughing, you can be silent till they get done so that you can move on. They're staying in touch with you coming from your experience is the key. Now, if I'm coming from my experience, I'm sharing something with you. It's like I'm on a road trip, riding along. You got to keep up with me. If I leave you back there laughing and keep going, guess what? We're not connected anymore. That's why that little part that Reggie did when he really raced Some of you, it was okay, but some of you got disconnected from him at that point. And if at that magic moment, because his texture and his racing was part of the story, like someone here was sharing, wow, when you were running, I felt like I was running too, because your voice sped up. But then it kept speeding up. He didn't slow it down again for a period of time. And that's hard for you to keep up in terms of your experience with his experience. Okay. Leah, you ready? Okay, and our next great speaker is Leah. Let's give her a nice big hand. Okay.
Wow, I feel like I'm coming up on stage at a comedy club after Robin Williams. On my 4th birthday, came in and there was this big, giant box. And I just ripped off the paper. And right there was a picture of my very first bicycle. It was green and white, and it had the little banana seat on it, and those little tassels, you know, that go out behind you when you ride. I was so excited, and I said, Dad, put it together. I want to ride it right now. My father, who is a big guy, ex-football player, kind of like Terry, sitting back in his recliner, and he says, you know what, Leah? I'll put that bike together for you when you learn how to ride it. And he winked at my mom. Being 4 years old, oh yeah, that sounds great, okay, Dad. So I jumped out of bed the next day, and I went to the only person I knew that had a bike without training wheels, a 6-year-old. I was 4, that was a big deal. And I asked her, can I borrow your bike for a day? She said, sure, I'm roller skating today. So I got on and fell over. All right, got to find a different way to do this. I'm not quite tall enough to get on a 6-year-old's bike. So I had to roll it over to the curb and sit it up on the curb, and then I climbed on, and I started riding. Wow, this isn't that hard. So my dad pulls into the cul-de-sac later that day, and I'm riding away, just riding. Dad, look, I can ride the bike. You can put my bike together tonight. Later that evening, we're at dinner, and I am so excited. I'm talking about who I'm going to ride my bike with. I'm talking about the little basket I'm going to put on the front of it with the little flowers that go around. And my mom says, your dad's not going to be able to put together your bike tonight because he worked all day today and he has to go to work tomorrow. And I said, no. You know what? Dad said that he was going to put my bike together when I learned how to ride it. Well, my father stayed up until 2 a.m. that night putting that bike together. And what I learned from that is when you make a commitment to somebody, they act as if you're following through. So I went out and I learned how to ride the bike because I knew my dad was going to follow through. And that's how I go through life. I act as if people are going to follow through when I make a commitment to them.
Half a step forward, and just get yourself nice and relaxed. Look around the room, make some eye contact, take some deep breaths, settle. Good. Okay, so first of all, what worked? Right here? Jim?
Leah, I loved your story. I had excitement along with you, and you really took me along with your journey.
Very nice. Something else that worked? Over here?
Leah, I loved your movement. I loved how you moved. I loved it. Your words and your story and your movement were in integrity with each other.
Excellent. Best movement we've had so far, yes? There's something about how she moves her body. Right here? Jim, over here, sweetheart. Yeah. Okay. Oh.
Leah, I really appreciated the descriptions because I too had a bicycle like that, and I could remember all the details of the banana seat and all of those things in the basket, and that was a great memory. So it brought back a lot of great memories as you were telling it.
Oh, that's very nice. And over on the side, Bill, do you have a mic? Yeah.
What I found is that when you used your head a lot, there were 3 or 4 times when you kind of forced us to agree. And that's a point that Nima mentioned about Jetta, and also Reggie did a good job. So when you do that, you force us to be involved in your story. We can't not be in your story because you're looking at us and like, yeah, right? And so you're making us agree. So that was really good.
Excellent.
There's movement and then there are gestures. And I could see your dad in his recliner. And I could see the fluttery things on the edges, on the handlebars of your bike and the banana seat. So I was totally there. That was awesome. Rocked.
Something that could be corrected. No one over here? Yeah. Dan?
Spent a little bit too much time on that side at one portion. We got disconnected over here. Just you worked the stage really good, but it was too long over there. It would have worked better for me.
What I tend to do is kind of try to come back to center whenever I'm moving, because then it allows the audience to let go of being on one side or the other. So if there's movement and I'm over here, and then I stop, and then I talk for a while, and everything's going great, then I might move to the other side, but always first I'll stop in the center. Something happens where it's almost negates every movement out, we start over again, then I can go over to the other side, and it will take away that feeling that the audience has you're on one side more than the other. Okay, anything else that could be corrected? Right here.
The ending, there was just a little bit of a skip, but you have so much elegance. This is the compliment and the critique blend together. You pulled it off, but it was just, you were so flawless, it was like, but that would be the only thing I can say.
Okay, I'm going to make 2 corrections, and then we're going to take a break, because I know that some of you have to go to the bathroom, I'm sure, and it's nice to move your bodies. You have the best movement we have so far. Your movement is graceful, it's gracious, it's fun, it's intriguing, there's not too much of it, it's perfectly balanced. That's fabulous. Your voice is incredible. The thing I would like to, and your eye contact is good too. You're conversationally speaking. All of those things are really well done. There's a piece that's right on the edge of performance. It's right on the edge of acting. It's not quite authentic, and that will kill you every time, everyone. And I'll tell you how to do this, and you can practice it when we're in the groups, and this is especially what I want you to practice, okay? What you do is, before you make your talk, you close your eyes, you settle your body down, you get in kind of a meditative state, and you go back to the incident that you're speaking of. And you crawl inside of the little girl or the little boy, or whenever you're talking about yourself, that moment in time, and you actually look out of those eyes and listen with those ears and re-experience what happened. Because if you're recalling it or memorizing it or talking about it, and then you're trying to act it out like the little girl, it's going to fall flat every time. Now, she's only on the edge. So we would forgive her, yes? If I hadn't brought, truly, if I hadn't brought it up, would you have thought about it that much? You might have felt it and everything, but I don't know that it would have been the general conversation. I feel it, not just see it. So that's a part we want to get more genuine from you, and when you're in the group, I'll come around and work with you a little bit on that, and I'll do that with everyone, because that's the piece. You notice how that piece is in there with Reggie? It was in there with Jetta. There was so authentic that they could do anything wrong and it would be okay. And the last thing, Leah, is your point. Now, what happened with the point? You're out here, you're watching just like I am. What did you see? What? What happened with her point? What was the ending like for you?
She nailed it and then she faltered.
She nailed it. She had it, and then she thought she had to explain it and tell you what it meant. And then went all through all this stuff, and then she drug it out, and then she dissipated the power of it. And then she went on even longer after that. When you nail it, nail it. Now, the only way you can nail it is if you know it before you go up there.
So tell me where it should have ended.
What was your point?
That when you...
Oh, the commitment thing. Yeah, first of all, she hadn't clearly got it in her mind. She wasn't clear because she stepped over words. Because when you make a commitment, others follow, or something like that. But she said it in a way that wasn't really understandable. She hadn't worked it through to the point where I said it needs to be a sentence-long book. A 2-year-old needs to understand what your point is. So when she heard herself say it, it was like it wasn't quite there. Do you see? Then she had to add to it. Then she was explaining, like, that's what I always do in my life. And then that's what I always have done in my life. And I continue to do that in my life. And my life is better as a result of doing that. I'm exaggerating now, but you get my picture, yes? That point needs to be nailed because it's a great point. Fabulous story. We get a little of the acting out, get a little more authenticity in, and nail the point. You've got something to deliver. And the important thing is this, and why I'm teaching you how to do these little talks. Any presentation you make, whether it has figures or whether it's long or whether it's a lot of information, at some point in there, throw in a story. That's going to give it so much power. And the more stories you can throw in about yourself, the more powerful your story will be. Once you get good at sharing stories of yourself, then you can share stories of others because you'll be able to be from that same heart space. Watch Jack now. Think back over the last 4 or 5 days, all the stories he's told you. In a conversational tone, every single one of them he told you at the right point to make a point he was speaking about. He doesn't just say, oh, I want to talk about myself now. He has a point to his stories. It's put in there deliberately, and it makes a point. So these are the way that you talk in between your presentation. You know, you give the analytics, you give the financial figures, you give the data, and then you say, you know, what happened to me one time was da-da-da-da-da, and what I learned was ching. And then everybody goes, wow, what an incredible speaker. Larry Price, 3 minutes. This is the next great keynote speaker. Okay, let's give him a nice big hand.
When I was packing for this journey last Saturday morning, I grabbed 2 shirts that had the same quote on it. What would I do today if I were brave? And immediately my thinking went to, why am I taking 2 of these? But I trusted the thought. Later that evening when I arrived here and I heard Jana sing the song, What Would I Do Today If I Were Brave? I knew exactly why those 2 shirts went in that suitcase. Over the next few moments, I'm going to share with you some of the secrets of bravery. I hope you're up to the challenge. Helen Keller, Amelia Earhart, Martin Luther King Jr., and Gandhi. All examples of bravery. But what about those moments of bravery you and I are faced with each day? Such as the heart-to-heart. When Jack had us beat with towels the chair, and we got rid of our big problems. And then we went to the bathroom and found out about little problems. And if little problems aren't dealt with, what do they become? Big problems. So when we were leaving, we found these towels for our little problems that we could come back here and beat on the chairs. The hotel is going to charge for those towels, so make sure that you get them in that little receptacle when you leave. But what about those examples of bravery you and I are faced with each day? Imagine if you did 478 things simply because of the fact that you were brave. And what would you do today if you were brave? My friend Casey and I have what we call focus discussion. And one Friday night each month, we discuss a particular topic. And many times it challenges us to lift and take our lives to the next level. But this particular evening, the topic was bravery. Now, Casey said, Larry, that road of personal construction you're on, that's a great example of bravery to me. And when he said that, I got distracted in my thinking about a goal I had never reached. It was to meet this man, Og Mandino, who was an inspirational author whose books changed my life and got me on that road of personal construction. And then Casey asked the question. He said, Larry, what would you do today if you were brave? It caught me off guard. Oh, I never thought about that. I'll develop youth programs. I'll become a speaker. I'll write a book. I'll quit my day job. And he laughed. But I said, I could. I would. When? And I came back in the room after I had written on this card, what would I do today if I were brave? And I showed it to him and I said, I'd ask myself this question each day. Little did I know how that would change my life. The following day, I was at a conference. The afternoon speaker started out with the words, Og Mandino. She shared how Og had taken her under her wing, become her mentor and her father figure in life. I'm driving home that afternoon, knowing I need to talk with this woman, but knowing I have a commitment with my boys. I made the right decision that afternoon. I went home to my boys. But the following morning was the first time I ever asked myself the question, what would I do today if I were brave? And I wrote the following letter. Dear Nancy, I heard you speak yesterday afternoon. At age 18, I had a great high school education behind me. In college, all the opportunities and a supportive family before me. But I took the next 13 years. And I went on a road of personal destruction, destroying everything positive in my life. Until January 8th of 1984, I was faced with a decision. I was deciding whether to live or whether to die. The words of one man, the man you spoke of yesterday, changed my life. My goal had been to meet this man named Og, but I found out he passed away a few months before. 2 weeks later, I walked out to my mailbox, and in it was a collector's edition of Og's 3 greatest books, including the one that changed my life, with this note attached. This is one of the last sets that Og signed before he passed away. It goes to someone special. Warmest regards, Nancy. Brothers and sisters, I sat in my living room that afternoon and cried my eyes out. For no one can understand the impact that this man had on my life and how it changed me. The following month, I visited Nancy. Traveled 12 hours to see her. That day, she shared with me pictures, letters, videos, and tapes. We walked up the mountain, we sat, we cried, we laughed. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I reached my goal of meeting Og Mandino, but not in the way I ever imagined. Many times our goals will come to us. We need to be open to however that may be accomplished.
And let's give him a hand for that. Well, I think when people stand up and give you a standing ovation, you have the answer to what worked.
Okay.
Would you all be willing to, or at least some of you be willing to stop him in person and tell him specifically what you enjoyed and anything that you think that could be corrected? Let's give him a nice big hand.
Congratulations, you've made it to the end of day 6. To assure you receive maximum value from this program, be sure to allow yourself to complete all of the exercises covered throughout this day. In addition, here are some action steps to complete before moving on to day 7. You have reached the end of this disc, but there's more. Just go to the next DVD. To resume listening to this course on audio CD, please go to CD number 35.